Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today, my name is Chantel, and today I am going to be doing my bi-weekly bookish wrap-up that I do every 2 weeks. If you're new to my channel, this is my standard thing that I do. Instead of doing like a monthly wrap-up as most people do, I have decided to change it to doing one every 2 weeks, because that matches better the pace of my reading, which is a little bit slower than reading a bazillion books every week, but a little bit faster than what I felt like was working for me doing a monthly wrap-up, because a lot of times by the time the end of the month rolls around, I don't have as much to say, or I've forgotten things about the books that I read very early in the month. So the bi-weekly wrap-up is my sort of compromise. So that's what we're doing today. I don't have a ton to say in this bi-weekly wrap-up, but I have some things to say. So first and foremost, I did finish Fool's Fate, which is the third and final book in the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb, and I did a video discussing the entire Tawny Man trilogy and my thoughts on it last week. So you can check out that video if you want to know more. All you really need to know for purposes of this video is that I really loved Fool's Fate. I really loved the entire Tawny Man trilogy. The Realm of the Elderlings continues to be pretty much my favorite thing going right now, and it's really, really great. I'm kind of obsessed. It's very much taking up a lot of real estate in my brain. So that continues to be my thing. I will be, I'm sure, starting on the next series in the Realm of the Elderlings, which is, I believe, the Rainwild Chronicles, because it's a 4-book series, not a trilogy. I'll probably be starting that in the relatively near future, within the next couple of months, I would expect. I try to read like one of those every couple of months to try and keep up with the series, to keep going forward with it. So yeah, that's how we're doing with that. On the continuing reading front, I did also, I'm continuing to read both the War of the Ring, which is the 8th volume in the History of Middle-earth series, which is a basically manuscript history of the development of the Middle-earth mythos and the Lord of the Rings specifically. This is the 3rd of 4 volumes specifically dedicated to Tolkien's writing of the Lord of the Rings, and it's heavily edited and annotated by his son and literary executor Christopher. So I really am enjoying that. These books I very much take my time with, so I don't have a whole lot more to say now than I did 2 weeks ago when I said that I started reading it. I'm still only maybe like a quarter of the way through it, but it's good. If you're a absolute Tolkien nut like I am, then it's probably worth your time. If you're not, then it's probably not worth your time. It's one of those things where if you're into it, you're into it, and if you're not, you're not, and there's no harm, no foul. I am also, of course, continuing to read the very large biography of Maria Theresa, Empress Maria Theresa of Austria, that I also mentioned starting in my last one, and which I also pointed out that it will take me quite a while to get through, which is continuing to be the case. I'm continuing to very much enjoy it, but it is such a big doorstopper. I didn't even bring it with me to show on this video again because it's such a big book and it's so awkward to hold up that there's just no point in doing it every single time. I'll probably make a point to show it like once I finally finish it, but I don't imagine that will be anytime soon. Honestly, it may take me the rest of the year to finish this book, which is fine. It's very dense, very packed with information. I'm really enjoying it. It's very good, but yeah, it's going to take me a while. So that's sort of the continuing finished reads. The other thing I did in the last 2 weeks was I did read the entirety of Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So this is one of those books that I now understand why nobody wants to talk about it in any great detail. Because I do feel like if I talked about it in any great detail, I might just give some of it away in a way that isn't so much about spoiling the plot, because I think the plot of this is not particularly unique or interesting, but of course what this has going for it is the structure of it and how it reveals the plot to you through the course of the book, which is definitely an experience that I do not want to mar for anyone else who may be thinking about reading this book. But I did really enjoy it a lot. I've read is it Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell? Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I have my copy of it up on this shelf here. I read it quite a while ago, so I don't remember a whole lot about it. And honestly, when I read it, I was kind of in a bad place mental health wise, so I should probably read it again just to have a better perspective on it and a perspective in which I'm able to actually retain more of it. But this was really good. I really like Susanna Clarke's writing. She's a good writer, and Piranesi is a wonderful protagonist. Willow from Willow Talks Books was talking about Piranesi in a recent video as well, and she called Piranesi a himbo. And I think Piranesi is maybe a little bit smarter than what I would usually consider to be a true himbo, but I understand the sentiment behind calling him that. And I do agree with that sentiment. He is incredibly lovable, and I was very invested in very much. My feelings towards Piranesi are very protective, shall we say. I would die for Piranesi. He might not want me to die for him. He certainly wouldn't want me to die for him, but I would. He's a wonderful character, and Susanna Clarke is a very good writer, and I enjoyed this book thoroughly. I had a good time with it. I flew through it in, 3 days, and that's between working my full-time job. So, very good. Enjoyed it a lot. So, that's Piranesi. And then I have started, if you have paid attention to my channel lately, I did put up a poll several days ago asking which series I should start next, and I put 4 books on there. All 4 books have been sitting on my physical TBR shelf waiting for me to pick them up for a while. I only got a few votes on it, but that's okay. It was more of an experiment just to see what would happen, if anybody would even vote. If I do polls in the future, I may do like a little video or a short or something just saying, hey, I put up a poll, you should vote in it. But the clear winner of that poll, at least as of this recording, was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So I have started reading Gideon the Ninth. Finally, it's happening. It is happening. I am enjoying it. I think at first, I found it a little bit jarring. I found the language a little bit slangier than I was expecting it to be. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the choice and the kind of language that a writer uses, the syntax, how quote-unquote modern or archaic or contemporary or slangy the language is obviously always an artistic choice, especially when you're doing a secondary world science fantasy like this, where it's like, she could have done anything, right? She could have done anything. She chose to do it this way, and I think I'm catching the drift of what's going on in terms of her language choice. And I think I'm falling more into it. I think part of the reason why it kind of threw me a little bit was just because I've been reading a lot of more archaic type fantasy books with not much in the way of modern or contemporary language in them. And so I just found this a little bit jarring because of that, because I've just gotten so used to those cadences and such. So that's really more of a me issue than it is an issue with this book. I'm getting the hang of it, though, and I am enjoying Gideon as a character more and more as we go along. I'm about a third of the way through this, maybe not quite a third of the way through this so far. And I am enjoying Gideon as a character. I don't know if I would like her very much as a person. You know, like there's a difference between liking a character because there's someone that you would actually want to be friends with and want to hang out with in real life if they were real, and liking a character because you think that they're interesting and well written, but you maybe wouldn't actually like them as a person, right? I'm not sure where I stand on that difference right now with Gideon. Sometimes I kind of want to punch her, but sometimes I think she's quite funny. So we'll see how we go. But I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I like the mystery of it. And seeing, again, sort of like with Piranesi almost, where it's like you don't really know what's going on. It kind of throws you into in medias res, you know, which is fine. I like that. Personally, I enjoy that kind of story. I enjoy having things pieced together as you go along instead of getting a bunch of weird exposition dumped on you at awkward points. Let's just figure it out as we go, right? And it's fun. So I'm enjoying this a lot. It's a pretty breezy read, especially compared to the other stuff I'm currently working on. So I imagine I'll be through this pretty quickly. And then what is up next for me? I don't know. September is my birthday month. So I know for a fact that I will be obtaining more books, which is kind of why I've been focused on trying to read some more of my physical TBR books, because I know that September is the month where I end up with a lot of coupons and I get gifted some things, and I end up buying things for myself quite often in the month of September. So I'm sure I will have some purchases and some gifts to show you all at some point in the month. And I'm not sure if I'm going to participate in any of the events going on in September. I know there's Shake-tember for Shakespeare, which is fun. I love Shakespeare, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure if I'm in the mood for Shakespeare right now. There's also Shorty September, which is reading some shorter books. I have a couple of shorter books that I could maybe try to toss in to my September reading. But I think a lot of what I want to do is maybe series September, which is to try and focus on some of the series that I would like to work on. There's also a couple of new or recent releases that I'm thinking about maybe picking up. I may purchase Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. That's her newest release. I really do like Kuang as a writer, and I feel pretty comfortable purchasing that without having read it first. So I may do that. But yeah, in terms of my reading plans for September, I'm pretty well up in the air. I'm thinking about possibly starting to do, restart doing TBRs, but much like doing the bi-weekly wrap-up instead of a monthly wrap-up, I feel like a TBR video, or for me, it would probably be much more like a Pile of Possibilities video than a strict TBR video. I feel like it might be easier for me to do one of those quarterly. So maybe about the end of towards the end of September, I will do a like Q4 Pile of Possibilities type video, because I do feel like doing a monthly TBR type video was just too much for me, and I always felt like I was behind if I wasn't getting all of those books read every month. And doing reading monthly seems, I understand it, but it also feels kind of arbitrary to me, especially when my reading habits are such that, you know, I'm going to take as long as I take to read a book, and if I don't read a book within a month, sometimes I just don't. Sometimes it takes me longer than a month to read a book, and that's fine. So I'm feeling like, but I also want to be more mindful of what I'm reading, and maybe do a little bit more planning in terms of keeping up with some of the challenges that I've decided to try and things like that, because I'm falling behind on the Our Fantasy Bingo board pretty significantly. Part of that is just I got caught up in reading John Steinbeck over the summer, which I'm not mad about. I love that for me, but I am falling behind on it, and I want to try and get caught up a little bit on the Our Fantasy Bingo board. And I feel like if I do a pile of possibilities type video for the quarter, for every, 3 months or so instead of every month, I might do a little better at keeping up with stuff like that if I'm a little bit more mindful and thoughtful about my plans, and actually put it out there what I'm thinking about doing. We'll see. So that might be something that I do. I'm also thinking about doing some, I've said before, and I will reiterate that I am thinking about starting up 1 or 2 personal projects, reading projects for myself. Again, just to be more mindful and thoughtful, and to be reading in more specific areas, more targeted areas of reading, both in terms of fiction and in terms of nonfiction. I may do more of a, nonfiction. I want to read a certain number of books about a certain specific event or time period or person or whatever. And also some fiction in terms of, I want to maybe do a deep dive on classic fantasy as a genre, and do some more backlist, older classic fantasy reading or things like that. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about in the medium term, right? Not necessarily within the next few weeks, though maybe, but also just within the next few months. And as we approach the end of 2025, that's crazy to me that in a couple of days it's going to be September already. That's insane. But anyway, that's my reading wrap up for this 2-week period. What have you been reading? What are you looking forward to? Have you got any great recs or books on deck that you're into? What's up? Tell me about it in the comments. Tell me about how you like Piranesi. Tell me about how you like Gideon the Ninth. Tell me about Tawny Man. Let's talk. And otherwise, like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.